So if performance on Facebook ads at the moment is very, very rough, a huge thing to take a look at is the ad account structure, and things post Andromeda have really changed. We're gonna go today based on spending more than 5 million per month in ad spend and obviously consulting quite a few diverse brands and businesses. What is gonna be the best possible account structure for your own specific business? We are gonna cover a few different scenarios, and I'm gonna give you exactly how I structure things and what I've seen working the best really to scale fast and obviously improve performance and profitability. If you're new to the channel, we talk all about paid ads and creative, as well as obviously growth strategy overall. And if you want some free resource, you can have a link in the description where you can get basically account structures, creative audits, creative types, and all my winning ads as well. So without further ado, let's actually jump into the video today. And really here, what are we looking at here? Let me just take my notes here as well. You need to first, before going into just giving you, just tactics and how to structure the campaigns and why you need to structure them like that, we need to just go a step back and see what exactly is the most optimal account structure. Like what exactly, because obviously nothing is going to be magical, right? There's no one size fits all account structure. That's 100% true. So this is super important so you don't get too confused about people just saying this is the best account structure, this is the best account structure, or whatever that is really finding out why this is the best account structure and which two real questions that you should answer before jumping into your account structure for your own business as well. So there are two elements of a great ad account. The first one is feedback loop and data learnings. This is going to be one of the most important things here, the feedback loop and the learnings. Most account structures don't allow for optimal creative and in general business learnings, and this is going to be the most important thing here. This is what we want the account structure to do really, and we also want to give Mets enough data so you can go out there and find our customers. So this is super important. And number two is we also want to test fast, because obviously this equals much faster scale, much faster revenue growth, but without destroying efficiency. So we need to find a way that we can structure the account that is both giving us the data that we want so we can make progress on other areas, even that is new product development, creative research, and maybe whatever that is, but also we need to be efficient, we need to be profitable. So based on that, let's take a look at the top mistakes that I'm seeing auditing brands every week. I audit more than 10 brands a week at the moment, and it's really pretty much the same stuff, to be honest. Number one mistake is too much segmentation. I see way too many campaigns, like way too many campaigns here. I see too many ad sets for no reason, and I see a lot of segmentation on a very granular level. On some occasions, I still see interest and lookalike still being tested, which is insane. In 2026, we need to lean on broad targeting, but a lot of trying manual and kind of segmented approach into meta ads, which obviously doesn't really work. And then I see the other kind of spectrum, which is too much consolidation. It's more like let's have one campaign and just let meta do its thing, which is also very bad because obviously meta is not always right. And I guess not just that. One campaign is just oversimplification, depending on your business size, complexity, as well as your scale as well. You can't have one campaign at 200, 300, 500K in ad spend. There's no way that you're gonna get the creative lens that you need to get to that. So the other thing is no proper creative testing environment. I see this all the time where I audit things. They just when they have a new winner, they just drop it into the same campaign where they have the top 10 ads. What that does essentially is we introduce proven elements into a proven environment, which means inconsistent performance, inconsistent CPA or cost per lead, whatever that is, and essentially no great performance. And the other thing is not letting tests run long enough. And I see this mostly on businesses and people who want to really, be very, very hands-on with the optimization, which is great because obviously that gives us a level of efficiency, but you also need to understand that things will take time depending on your AOV, depending on your business size. So we need to also make sure we are running the test long enough. To me, a long enough test is at least 3 days, depending on what test it is and how much budget we have. And 3 days, but obviously make sure that we have at least 2x times the spend compared to our CPA. So it makes sense that we should have, a decent performance by then. But these are the top common mistakes. You might be actually doing some of those. I'm just going to go straight into exactly what I recommend and some of the further things to go through that. And bear with me, we haven't covered exactly how to structure and everything. I know it's a bit more top level at the moment, but I think most people have this issue, and that's why they really struggle with account structure, because there's no education around it as well. So the next thing here is, if I go a bit to the right here, I'm going to see what's step one really here. Before going to step two, let's zoom into step one, is understand the complexity of the business really and the stage of growth. So like I said, I see there's obviously that trend since 2023. You need to consolidate. Meta is much better with broad targeting, which is true. And in general, like the more consolidation, the better. And this is true. But if I show you some ad accounts of like 7-8 figure businesses and that spend 6 and 7 figure in ad spend per month, they are very, very complicated as well. There's no like a 2-campaign setup for those businesses as well. So yes, consolidation is going to be key, but we need to also make sure that we are addressing everything and really addressing the complexity of the business within the account. That essentially means like, how many products do we have? Like here, how many products? Do we have 3 different hero products? Okay, potentially makes sense to have 3 different core campaigns here. Do we have different demographics? Do we have, for example, male or female? Have maybe two kind of different products, maybe 2 different kind of solutions for each of the kind of markets. And do we have proven scaling concepts? So this is also going to be affecting the overall account structure, where we're new, we don't have anything. Yeah, it potentially makes sense to be way more consolidated, right? Because we don't have the spend, we don't have the learnings to do anything. But once we expand, makes more sense to start also have a big control in terms of how we are allocating the budget. And 3, do we have seasonal launches? This is also going to be very important. The account structure will evolve based on potentially you are a deodorant brand and you see most of the scale coming from those summer months. So like from spring to end of like summer. So potentially like, April to September. Potentially there's going to be a much more scaled ad account compared to the earlier stage of the year where things potentially are slightly slower. So this is also very important to take into account. Number 2, which is very, very important, is what variable are we testing and what do we want to get insight on? Because this is, I guess, when auditing all those accounts, and personally as well, this is one of the hardest things to, when it's especially for like scaled accounts, when you have so much happening at the moment, making sure that you have a very clear hypothesis testing process is going to be the most important thing to rescale and rescale to the next level. And this is obviously also going to be really, really changing the account structure based on like what exactly are we want to actually learn here, and what's the main thing that we want to get some insight on. So the most common one is around creative, and it really going to be testing around different creatives, different concepts, and really the insight there is going to be which concept is actually driving the best performance. Landing page, also a kind of fair test. Do we, for example, want to test homepage, PDP, or maybe like a dedicated landing page? Now, this is, and we're going to see in a second how I would structure this, but it is a valid test. But usually you can see the performance on this type of stuff through Shopify as well. There's no need to do and allocate spend inside the account. To me, that makes sense specifically with creating specific landing pages tied to specific personas as well. As you scale, then you need to isolate them into its own campaign, perhaps to really push spend. Again, different products, we're gonna have different campaigns, and we want to obviously gather different insights based on those products. And concepts, again, it does a bit into that creative. Essentially, we have a winning concept, we want to test different angles, different formats, and this is exactly where I'm gonna go next. Is like how this is actually moving out. And an example of this, for example, is gonna be around format. Now, you can potentially have 4 different ad sets, one for videos, one for GIFs, one for statics, one for DPAs, testing the kind of different formats here. And this is super, super key as well, because again, you just see what's actually resonating. Now, just maybe go a bit more practical now, is does this make sense for a kind of scale account? No. A scale account is probably going to have a mix of all of those, and needs to have a mix of all of those based on creative diversity rules. But for a new account, this is actually quite beneficial, because you learn, which format is actually performing the best. And maybe you can double down that initially when you have like a lot of spend to just test different stuff. Number 2 is going to be, like, for example, a concept, right? Testing. So you have ad set 1, potentially you have, let's say, a cleaning brand that has eco-friendly products, and like eco-friendly kind of cleaning products. So you have the one angle is going to be eco-friendly, and this is not correct, so excuse my grammar. Ad set 2 is going to be performance focused, so potentially, I guess one of the most common questions that consumers will have is, okay, this is great, this is eco-friendly, but is it actually as effective as my, Arial, my kind of mainstream? Ad set 3 could be around social proof. Okay, how much can we push our social proof messaging into this concept? For example, we may have like 500,000 subscribers, maybe have 500,000, households served, something like that. How we can, I guess, bring that social proof element into our creative. And it's another thing to kind of test. And number 4 is going to be before and after. Maybe we have like before afters of like people cleaning, and it's showing exactly the effectiveness. So you can see from that, on a scaled account, it can be great because you can then find, let's say, ad set 1 and 2, they get 80% of the results. And then we can maybe double down on those and maybe do like, okay, we have eco-friendly. Let's maybe, break this down to, I don't know, potentially it's going to be more specific angles around, how much, plastic are you saving? Or maybe you can have that you're saving the planet, something like that. To go more deep, and then you can, have different stuff for that. So you're going to see these two very simple scenarios in terms of like how, that creative testing can actually happen, or that kind of, I guess, testing campaign can actually happen. So based on that, let's see, I guess, a more top level best practice in terms of the account structure and why this is very, very important as well. So the first thing we're going to do, and what I recommend from a top level perspective, is going to be having one advanced plus shopping campaign, or like scaling campaign, which we have majority of the spend here, and we have 10 to 20 winning ads. This is going to be dependent on the amount of spend that I recommend. Usually I recommend a minimum of $100 in terms of like daily spend. So we have 15, but we're going to have 150. On this example, $100 a day. Maybe that's a lot for someone, maybe that's not too much. Again, play along with your budgets here. That winning campaign, in theory, should have all the winners. You have most of the spend and reach going into through that campaign, because obviously you have all our winning ads inside it. And the other thing that I recommend is having a 7-day click. This is maybe for another video that I'm going to link as well, is making sure we have a click-based attribution setting and optimization setting, or at least a 7-day click, 1-day engage view, so we can make sure we have incremental results that are actually leading to revenue and not just meta reporting through conventions. And the other thing here, make sure we have customer exclusions. I can't fathom enough. I can't fathom how often I can see accounts with no customer exclusions in 2026. It's really insane. Make sure you exclude your customers, pixel bias, and also clear list. One of the most important things is going to be then creative testing. Have another campaign which is just for creative testing, which is going to be 99 out of 100 times the dedicated campaign for just creative testing. We are not testing anything else. So you can go and test like things like that here, as I mentioned, about format and about concepts. And this is usually here, and obviously this is also going to be dependent on a few things, but this is usually at scale, or at least on occasions when we're scaling. This needs to be controlled, because obviously we don't want to, obviously creative is going to be the biggest lever in terms of driving the scale, and we need to find new creative testing winners, and that we need to promote. That's why we have this BAU creative testing creative campaign. At the same time, we need to keep it controlled in terms of the maximum budget allocation in comparison with the account, because obviously the more unproven stuff we bring into this, the more inconsistent the account's average CPA will be. That's why I also recommend having specific set launch days per week, depending on your brand and your size and your creative volume. This can be, for example, twice a week, or for example, it can be one time a week. Because again, if you jump and launch 40 assets on Monday, another 40 assets on Friday, this creative testing campaign will also suffer because obviously we bring a lot of unproven elements as well here. And just in general, the overall account structure will be, I guess, a bit destroyed because obviously going back to our initial principles, efficiency is going to be taking a hit here. So this is important to also mention that this is going to flex depending on the period. Again, maybe we want to have a very heavy creative testing period for let's say January to March, and then we want to potentially start scaling in summer. So that potentially can be all the way up to 30 or 40% sometimes, depending on how many winners we have. So important to mention, again, customer exclusion is still there. And then in terms of the creative testing, also link another video how I kind of structure my creative testing and think about my creative concepts. Usually it's going to be based on the concepts plus angle-based testing, around 50 to 15 ads per ad set. And similar to what I just explained before, we're going to mention and we're going to see which ones did actually perform best. I'm going to choose the top performers, try to get more concepts, more angles, so we can dive deeper on those creative concepts. And then last but not least is a retargeting campaign. Some people don't like to use them. I see seen decent results, especially on bigger branch. Leveraging some low spend activity of retargeting doesn't have to be something insane. One of the most common mistakes that I see, too much retargeting. So keep it 5 to 10%. If your agency has more than 10%, switch agencies, because obviously this is a very easy way for them to say, look at my account level ROAS or performance is just crazy good, whereas they're just spending on existing customers. And the other thing is make sure we have broad enough middle funnel and bottom funnel stack. Again, use your auto cards, video views, view content, even Instagram engagers and any kind of Facebook engagers. Make sure we have a broad enough pool so that I can actually go out and find some of those people who have already interact with our brand. And now let me go into some of the, structure side of things. So you can see that creative testing campaign on a more visual format. So we're making sure we are clear as well in terms of what's happening. Again, same things. As you can see, the concept one can be, three different hooks, but also some different statics as well. And it can also be, UGC, or it can be high product videos. And essentially we are isolating the concept, as we mentioned. Same with the concept 2, we have a mix of diverse assets. So we don't really want to have very similar creative to just make that progress that we need. And this is basically what I just explained before about the more granular kind of technical setup. So things like testing concepts, creators as well sometimes, if we really into some concepts. And this is also something that I just haven't mentioned so far, is ABO versus CBO. I like to always test on ABO, and I also have a video about it, so you can actually dive a bit deeper in terms of why. Essentially what we like to do is just have the control, because then I can set dedicated tests, and then by end of the week, I'm going to have some learnings that I can then go back to the creative team and say, okay, this worked, this didn't work, but we see get some traction. Again, the important metrics is just make sure we have 7-day click, and we launch also at the same time every week. Now, into the scaling campaign. This format, this 3-campaign format is one of the simplest ones really. And then how this is going to be evolved is going to be also depending on the brand. So for example, the scaling campaign here will house all the kind of top winners. That's why you have here creative 1, creative 2, creative 3. But this is all, winning ads, all winners. Okay. Now, if you want dedicated, specific visuals and ways that structure accounts based on low spend, high spend, multiple products, multiple countries, different categories, different seasonality, please click the link below. You're gonna get my free access to all of this stuff. This is completely free, so you can obviously dive a bit deeper, because obviously this will be a 2-hour long video if I go on in each one of those structures. The TLDR is, for example, if you have multiple products, what I like to do is have another core ASC. Now, the most important thing here is make sure we have the products that are actually profitable and actually are core business cases. Because I had, for example, a recent client of mine, they have 7 products and they're actually launching new stuff, and they don't have no creative engine or any of those, no specific creative output, and they wanted to kind of test everything. And I'm like, you can't really test everything. You need to focus on those highest gross margin, so highest gross margin here that actually can scale essentially, and the ones that will get decent creative around and are also, a large percentage of revenue essentially. These are the two. Like, usually brands don't have like more than a couple SKUs that are heroes unless we are talking about a more established structure, an established brand here. So this is very important. And then the other a couple of things here, as I mentioned, we have all the winning ads. Make sure you again 7-day click, 1-day engage view, and you're naturally going to see the top couple of ads get most of the spend. This again, another video that I'm going to do is in terms of how you can approach this problem. But don't think this is a mistake. This is how Meta works, and usually it's how it should be working. And we don't need to do anything about it. I'll actually create new tests. Now, retarget, as you can see here, the only thing key that I haven't mentioned is around make sure we keep this as controlled and as consolidated, and make sure we have some thought on our creatives. Again, don't be lazy. Create specific or add specific creatives that are like more oriented around existing warmer people. So your social proof statics, your UGC that are testimonial led, maybe some objection handling, maybe some whitelisting as well, which is really catered to our personas, for example, who people who are warm, have engaged with a brand, will actually resonate. So this is super important. Again, this is the account structure, the 3-campaign account structure that actually works all the time. And again, this is going to be evolved depending on your business, but the basic level of this account structure you should be running. And again, if you have multiple products, think about adding different core campaigns per product. And for example, if you have multiple countries, same with different countries, and make sure you address the complexity of your business into your account if you really want to start making progress across a few different variables. At the simplest form, this is essentially the kind of basis. This is essentially a 3-campaign framework. If you're starting out, potentially even like 1 campaign, you could do as you scale. Make sure you add that creative testing campaign. It's gonna really, really help you out scale. And yeah, I hope you really enjoyed the video. Hope you really had some good insights out of it. Again, if you want to work with me one-to-one, and you obviously get a lot more access to a lot more stuff like this, and a more specific custom to you, click the link below and obviously book a call with me if you obviously digest some of the resources, you like some of the videos, and we can obviously talk more about how we can work together. Thanks a lot for watching this, and I really appreciate taking the time. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.